Why don't you come up here, back up here?
It's part of the deal.
Thank you. Okay, well, it would be nice to have one of the bailiffs, but thank you.
I know that.
Joe, we all set? Okay, let's do it. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Have a seat, please. And Mr. DeLangelo, are you all set for your cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Hedges, I'm going to go back a little bit here. How old were you when your mom and Jim moved in together? Do you remember?
I can't recall exactly how old I was.
Okay. Your mom and Jim moved in together prior to them getting married. Is that your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. That was about 4 years prior to them getting married?
I think so.
If they got married in 1989, they moved in together sometime around 1985?
It sounds about right.
Okay. And when they moved in, do you remember how long it was from the time your mom started talking to Jim to the time that they moved in together?
No, I don't know. I was pretty young.
Did it seem pretty fast?
Like I said, I was pretty young.
You mentioned that when the families got together, they immediately blended. Everybody was living in the house. That would be you, your sister Stacey Deere, Marsha Loritz, Lisa Mastay, and then James Jr. or Wally, correct?
Yes.
You all lived in the same house for a while?
From what I remember, yes.
Okay. And when you moved in, did you feel like you fit right in?
I don't remember.
Let me ask you a little bit about your childhood. When you were growing up, did Jim take you hunting?
He took me hunting once.
Did you go bow hunting and gun hunting together?
Just gun hunting.
Just gun hunting? Did you guys ever go snowmobiling together?
No.
Nope. You only recall one time going hunting? Do you recall how old you were when you went hunting?
12 or 13.
Okay. And do you remember how Jim treated you and your sisters? Did he treat you like his own kids?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were asked a lot of questions about your relationship with your mom. You were pretty close with your mom, especially after your burn incident, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you pretty much lived with your mom your whole life. You only moved out of the house a couple times, true?
Yes.
When you were living with your mom, did she take care of a lot of things for you?
Yes.
She would make you meals, correct?
Yes.
She would help you with any sort of laundry, or did you take care of that on your own?
I typically did it on my own, but she'd do a lot, or she'd do it if I didn't get to it right away.
Okay. And when your mom, do you remember or recall your mom having to go to see doctors with regards to her mental health, even as a young child?
Yes.
Okay. And she's always kind of struggled with her mental health as far as you can remember.
Yes.
Okay. She's had good days, correct?
Yes.
And then she would have her bad days.
Yes.
Okay. When your mom was just at home, was she always kind of dressed up, or did she sometimes have like sweats? And I mean, what was typical for your mom to wear?
Your Honor, I just ask if you'd qualify the question to a time frame.
Sure. So Wes, when you were growing up, was your mom kind of dressing up at that time?
Yes.
As she got older and as you were living in the house, I would say the last 3 years, from say 2010 to 2013, was she dressing up as much?
Not as much, no.
So typically she wouldn't be all dressed up going places between 2010 and 2013.
No.
Okay. And your mom, did she attend a lot of family events as they got older, say starting from 2008 on? Did she ever attend family functions at your sister's?
Yeah.
She would?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to those events as well?
Yes.
Okay. And would she typically dress up for those events?
Yes.
Okay. But on a day-to-day basis, when you were hanging out at the house, especially the last few years, your mom wasn't dressing up just to hang out at the house, correct?
Not typically, no.
And let's talk about the day that she went missing. And we're going to go back to the other things first, but the day that she went missing, she was kind of dressed up. That was a little bit out of the norm for her typical daily wear, true?
To go out, no.
To go out, no. So when she went to her doctor's appointment, she'd always be dressed up?
If she was feeling up to it, yes.
Okay. But not always?
No.
Okay. So you were asked about your mom's suicide attempts in the past, and the garage incident, you were too young to remember. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Did anybody talk to you about that garage incident?
My sisters.
Which sisters?
Both of them.
Oh, both of them talked to you about the garage incident.
Yes.
Was that more recent they talked about it, or did they talk about it in the past while your mom was still around?
While my mom was still around.
Okay. And what was your understanding about the garage incident?
Just that it was a suicide attempt.
Okay. Do you remember if she left a suicide note at that time?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know if she was, what she looked like that day that she attempted suicide?
No.
Okay. And she was found in the garage with the car running, correct?
I wasn't there.
Okay, but you were told about it, right?
Yes, but I wasn't told specifics. I was just told very vague details.
Okay, so what are the details that you know? What did they describe to you?
I'm just
That
going to
they
object to
found
a
one.
lack of foundation. We had one witness testify directly on this. We have Marsha testifying yet today who can give him the direct knowledge. So lack of foundation is the objection, Your Honor. He testified twice. He wasn't there and he doesn't know.
Your Honor, he indicated that his sisters told him information. I'm just trying to figure out what the information his sisters told him.
Well, then I could object to hearsay, but I'm not doing, the bottom line is, Your Honor, there's another witness, two witnesses testifying to this, so it is also then hearsay.
Mr. DeAngelo, it is hearsay. Do you have an exception to it?
Your Honor, I'll move on. It's fine. I'll
Okay.
withdraw the question. So, Wesley, in 2003, you found your mother with a pill overdose, correct?
Yes.
That was around Thanksgiving time?
Yes.
And you were coming over, you weren't living at the house at that time, right?
No.
You came over to the house to check on your mother.
I came over to say hi, not to
Okay.
check on her.
You came over to say hi to your mother, and then when you entered the home, you saw her on the ground.
Yes.
And you said there was pills scattered everywhere?
Yes.
Do you know what type of pills they were?
Her prescribed medications, I don't know exactly which ones she was prescribed at the time, no.
Okay, so it was her prescribed meds as far as you remember?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any over-the-counter meds laying around?
None that I seen.
And you found her on the floor, and then you panicked and you went over to the neighbors for help.
Yes.
And at that point, you also said something about, was there a suicide note found?
Yes.
Did you ever read the suicide
I
note?
didn't have a chance to read it. An officer had took it into custody before I had a chance to read it.
Okay, but you did see that there was a suicide note.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what your mom was wearing that day?
No, I don't.
Do you recall whether or not it was something fancier or something just plain, or just you flat out don't remember?
I don't remember.
All right. Did you have any signs from your mother that she was contemplating suicide prior to that 2003 attempt?
No.
Did you talk to her prior to that day?
A few days before that, I did.
You talked to her a few days before that.
Yes.
And when you talked to her a few days before that, did she seem happy and normal?
Yes.
No indication that she was contemplating suicide.
No.
Did she seem happy and normal, similar to what she seemed on April 25th, 2013? Did she seem her happy, normal self that day as well?
Yes.
And were you, after the 2003 attempted suicide, she went to the hospital?
Yes.
Did you go to the hospital to see her?
Yes.
When you saw her in the hospital, did you ask her why she did this?
Yes.
And what was your understanding?
He just said she didn't want to be here anymore.
Okay. And did she ever make a statement when she was either at the hospital or leaving the hospital about if she did it again, you wouldn't find her?
Yes.
Did she tell that to you?
Yes.
Do you know who else was in the room when she said it?
I don't recall who was all in the room.
Okay. Do you know if did she say it to you individually, or did she say it to a group of people? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay.
But I believe she's told Stacey the same thing.
Okay. So she told you and Stacey that if she ever did this, nobody was going to find her.
Yes.
She was upset about being found that time.
Yes.
And was this when she was being released, or was she still in the hospital when she made that statement?
She was still in the hospital.
She was still in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. Was she being released shortly thereafter?
Yes.
Okay. Who took her home after that attempt?
Jim.
And did you ever talk to your mom after she got home, if she ever changed her mind about making that statement?
Yes.
And what was your understanding about that?
She told me it was the medication they had her on that made her fight, that made her so angry that's why she was angry that I found her.
Okay.
That's why she said that. That was her exact statement.
Okay. But there, if I'm clear, then this was after the attempt and she was now home, and was this a while after she was home, or was it immediately after she got home?
That's probably the day she came home.
The day she came home.
Yes.
Now, moving forward, there was another pill overdose, an accidental one, correct? That was in 2008?
Yes.
Did you also find her that time?
Yes.
Where did you find her?
On the bathroom floor.
And that time when you found her, was it her prescription pills that are around or something else?
There was nothing around her.
There was nothing around her.
No.
You just found her on the floor.
Yes.
How did you know that she took too many pills?
Just by the way she was breathing and the way she was acting.
Okay. Did you call 911 that time?
Yes.
Okay. And were you living at the house at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And just to clarify, you weren't living in the house prior to the 2003 attempt, but you were living when she did the overdose in 2008, correct?
Object to the
Yes.
form of the question when he said did overdose.
I'm sorry.
You want to
Thank
rephrase that?
I can rephrase it.
Go ahead.
So you were not living in the house in 2002 on the suicide attempt. I'm sorry, 2003 on the suicide attempt, correct?
Yes.
You moved in after that,
Correct.
and you stayed at the house from 2000. Well, you stayed living with them from 2002 through 2013.
Yes.
Okay. So in 2008, you were living in the residence when there was this accidental pill overdose.
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall your mom's demeanor around that time that the pill overdose occurred?
He seemed fine.
She seemed happy and normal?
Yes.
Okay. So, moving forward, when you were living with Jim and your mother, did you ever work?
Did I ever work?
Did you ever go to work? Like, did you have a job during that time?
During
Say from
Time period.
2002 to 2013, did you ever work?
2002 to 2013? Yes.
What did you do for work?
I was in construction.
And what did you do in construction? And
Framed houses.
okay. And do you know approximately what year that was?
The last year I was doing that was 2004,
Okay.
I believe.
So you worked in construction in 2004. So this is obviously after your burn incident when you were a child, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever have any other jobs besides construction?
Yes.
What else did you do?
I was a mechanic.
Okay. When you were a mechanic? What year?
From high school up until like 2000.
Did you ever work with your dad, Jim, at McKeefrey's?
Yes.
When did you work with your dad at McKeefrey's?
I don't know the exact years, but it was like four years, I think I worked there.
Okay. Was that, put it in a time frame, was that after 2002?
Before.
It was before 2002.
Yes.
Okay. Any other jobs that you held while you were living with your parents?
No.
Okay. So basically, if I understand, your last employment was 2004,
Yes.
and then from that time on, you just stayed at the house.
I've been on SSI.
Okay. And it's SSI is Social Security insurance for your disability, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were asked about spending time at the house and going to your friend's house. Typically, though, on a weekly basis, you were at the house more than you spent night at your friend's house.
Yes.
Your main residence was with your mom and Jim.
Yes.
Do you recall when they moved to Cunnish Road?
I don't remember the exact year, no.
Okay. But once they moved into Cunnish Road, you weren't working and you were home most of the days of the week, correct?
Yes.
So if your mom needed to go somewhere, you could drive her.
Yeah.
And if she ever asked for something, you could help her with it, correct?
Yes.
In fact, didn't you tell investigators that the typical morning routine of your day would you would get up and then your mom would holler for you to get her a cup of coffee.
Yes.
That was pretty much a routine with you and her, right?
Yep.
A daily routine almost?
Yeah.
You get her a cup of coffee, you guys would sit down, maybe chat in the morning when you got up?
Yes.
Were there days where you noticed her having better days than others when you had this time with her?
Of course.
And was it every morning she would ask you to get her a cup of coffee?
Pretty much.
And then, so typically, you and her would chat throughout the day?
Yes.
Now, you indicated on the night, on April 25th, 2013, do you recall what time you got up that morning?
I don't recall exactly what time it was, no.
Okay. Do you recall hearing Jim leave for work that morning?
Yes, I recall hearing the door shut when he left.
Okay. So you do recall, but you don't know what time he left that morning?
It was around 5.
Okay, so you do know what time you left in the morning. Okay.
I don't know the exact time, but I know it was around 5.
Around 5 a.m. on the April 25th, 2013, correct?
Yes.
Then you went back to sleep, I assume?
Yes.
You got up later, and that's when you did the typical routine with your mom, getting the cup of coffee in the morning for her?
Yes.
Okay. And was she dressed up at that point in the day?
At that point in the day, no.
Okay. Do you recall what you did during the day while your dad was at work on the 25th?
No.
Okay. At some point, Jim, your dad came home to take your mom to the doctor's appointment, right?
Yes.
They went to the doctor's, and then they came home for dinner, true?
Yes.
Do you know what time approximately they went to the doctor?
I'm not for sure on the exact time, no.
Okay. Now, you testified that Jim was always the one that took her to the doctor. You never took her to doctor's appointments if Jim couldn't get off of work?
No, I never did.
Never took her. Okay. Did you ever take her for errands when she wanted to go?
Rarely.
Okay. They come back after the doctor's appointment. Jim goes out to Super Ron's to get chicken, correct?
Yes.
He come back. When he came back to the house, were you upstairs or were you in the main living
I
room
was
area?
upstairs.
You were upstairs. Did your mom holler for you to come down for dinner?
Yes.
Was dinner already on the table when you got downstairs?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Was it one of these things where they got deli chicken, you grabbed yourself a plate, you filled it up, and then you sat down at the table?
The chicken was on the table. They set the chicken on the table, and they had the plates on the table.
Okay. But you didn't see who actually set them. You just assumed it was your mother, correct?
My mom's usually the one that always set the table.
Okay. She's the one that usually did it. But you
Well,
didn't see who did it that evening, correct?
No.
Okay. And other than the discussion about the tablecloth, was there any other discussion going on that evening?
Just the one I had with my mom about how her doctor's appointment went.
When you asked your mom about her doctor's appointment, what was her response? Do you recall?
She said it went well.
You don't recall telling the investigators that when you asked your mom about her doctor's appointment, she said it went so-so?
I don't recall saying that, no.
And obviously, this was a long time ago when you first talked about this case with investigators, so your memory back then may have been better than it is today, you would say?
Yeah.
Okay. And was your mom, other than the tablecloth discussion, was there any joking around at the table, or was it pretty serious, or how was the mood in the house?
No, I don't recall any joking around.
Okay. But you do recall the tablecloth incident.
Yes.
Do you recall her asking to go to Walmart or the
Dollar
dollar store? The dollar store. Never
Family
Walmart?
Dollar in Pulaski.
Okay.
Let him ask the questions, please, and then answer. Otherwise, you talk over each other.
Did you ever offer to take your mom to go to the dollar store?
I didn't have the gas to bring her to the dollar store.
You didn't have the gas to go to the dollar store, but you went to go to your friend's house. So you had enough gas to go to your friend's house, true?
Yeah.
So let's talk about when you left. Do you recall what time that you left the residence?
Around 6:30, somewhere in there.
Do you recall giving previous testimony in a previous hearing that you got a text message around 8:30 and you were still at your residence at that time?
I don't recall that, no.
You don't recall them finding that you were still at the Coonish Road residence at 8:30 at night?
I don't remember that, no.
And then you went to, you said Kelly and Jerry Walters? Is that how you say the last name?
Yes.
And do you recall what time you got to their residence?
I wasn't looking at a clock when I got there.
I'm sorry?
I said I wasn't looking at a clock when I got there.
Do you recall receiving a text from one of either Kelly or Jerry about bringing soda over to the house?
No.
You went over the house there to give them a computer?
Yes.
So how far is it from your residence at Coonish Road to their residence?
Mm-hmm. A 5-10 minute drive,
Where do they live? Do they live in Pulaski?
just outside of it.
Okay. And you testified that you didn't stay at their house all night, correct?
Yes.
You ended up going to your friend Rosman, I think it's Tuiscent? Is that how you pronounce it? The best
I
I can.
don't know how to pronounce it. but
Okay.
it's something like that.
Well, you went to your friend Rosman's house, correct?
Correct.
And Your Honor, if I may approach?
You may.
Exhibit 39 and Exhibit 40, okay? You were previously testified about both of those images, correct?
Yes.
Those are images that you took with your phone, true?
Yes.
And this is at your friend Ronsman's house, true?
Yes.
You went to your friend Ronsman's house to buy weed, is that your understanding?
Yes.
Did you smoke any weed at that house?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what time you got to your friend Ronsman's house that evening?
Probably 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Okay. And then did you immediately smoke weed or did you smoke weed later in the evening?
Later in the evening.
And do you know approximately what time you started that?
No.
Do you know approximately the time you left Ronsman's house?
I left there roughly around 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay. From Kelly and Jerry Walters' house to Ronsman's house, how far is that?
Probably about 20 miles.
About 20 miles. Okay. So my understanding is you had enough gas to go to Kelly and Jerry's, and then you had enough gas to get to Ronsman's. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you think you left the house around 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
And you testified that you stopped at the Quick Trip, correct?
Correct.
When you stopped at Quick Trip, you testified that you bought just Glazers. Did you buy any gas?
No. I don't recall buying gas. I might have.
Handy was marked as Exhibit 41, 42, 43, and 44. Is that the quick trip that you were at?
If you just pointed to an exhibit that didn't say the number.
At Exhibit 41, is that the quick trip gas station that you were at?
I-
We'd still ask you to have them
Barely see the picture.
authenticate it, what the photo is.
Sir, do you recognize that being your vehicle that evening?
Yeah,
So that is your vehicle in document 41. Correct?
I believe so from what I can make of it.
Okay. And looking at Exhibit 42, can you describe what that is?
Looks like me at a cash register.
You at the cash register. Is there also a copy of a receipt next to that?
Yes,
On that receipt, can you look at Exhibit 42 for me, please? On that receipt, do you see two charges there?
yeah,
One charge is for, looks like the donuts, and then one charge would be for some $10. Would that be for gas?
no, apparently, yes.
Okay, so you stopped and got gas, correct?
Mhm. Apparently, yes.
And this picture was taken roughly at 4:08 in the morning. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And that was on April 26, 2013.
yes.
Okay. And looking at Exhibit 43, can you describe what that looks like?
Same picture.
Okay. Same picture of you at the cash register?
Yeah,
Okay. Your Honor, I would move Exhibit 41, 42, and 43 into the record.
Any opposition to that, Ms. Lemko?
Oh, Your Honor.
Then I will receive Exhibit 41, 42, and 43. Thank you. Why don't you bring those up here, please?
Now, Mr. Edges, if you left the quick trip at 4:08 in the morning, and you indicated that Ronson lives in the Green Bay area, correct?
yes,
And that quick trip was what quick trip would that have been? Was that the one on Shawano Avenue in West Green Bay?
Shawano and Taylor.
Shawano and Taylor. So if you left there, approximately how long would it have taken you to get home from that quick trip?
Roughly 10 to 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes. So if you left roughly around 4:08, that would have put you home about either 4:18 to 4:23, correct?
Yes,
You previously testified that you got home around 4 a.m., but that's not actually accurate, correct?
I'm sorry, I think this, can you repeat that? I think that mischaracterized the testimony. He had
can you say
testified he
around
left
4
at
a.m.?
he testified he left at 3:30 or 4.
But you previously told the state, and you testified in their direct, that you got home around 4 a.m.
Yeah, around 4 a.m.
Okay, so around 4 a.m. for you is between 4 and 4:30?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance. I think we're getting close to a pretrial ruling that was already discussed this morning.
Your Honor, I'm just trying to get a timeline here.
I think he's entitled to a timeline. We're talking about times, and I think Mr. D'Angelo is trying to get that. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to clear, Mr. Edges, you got home, your definition of getting home around 4 is between 4 and 4:30, correct?
Yes,
Okay. When you got home, you saw the truck lights coming in from one direction, you're coming from the other direction, and pulling into the Coonish Road property, correct?
yes,
When you got out of the truck, you saw your father, and he said, "Mom is gone," correct?
yes,
And you clarified this as, what do you mean she's gone? And he says she's missing. Correct?
He didn't say she's missing.
What did he say specifically?
I woke up and she's gone.
Okay. And did he ask you if you wanted to go look for her with him?
No.
You decided to go into the house, correct?
Yes.
Was it your decision to wait at the house, or was it?
Mine.
It was yours. When you got in the house, as my understanding is that you then went up to your bedroom, true?
Yes.
You didn't look around the house for your mom, correct?
And there's nobody in the house.
Did you look around the property at all?
No.
Did you make any phone calls that morning?
No.
You didn't call your sister saying mom's missing?
No.
You didn't call the police either?
No, he said he was going to.
And when he said he was going to call in the morning, did you take that day or the next day he was going to call?
That he was going to call then.
Did you ever hear Jim indicate that he thought he had to wait 24 hours before he could call the police?
Not till like the next day he stated that.
When you say the next day, you mean the 27th?
Well, technically it'd be the same day, but the sun was up, we'll put it that way.
Okay. So, all right. Sir, the handy was previously marked as Exhibit 32, 33, and 34. Exhibit 32, that's a picture of what?
The truck I was driving.
Truck you were driving. Exhibit 33 and 34, what is the pictures of that?
Jim's truck.
And looking at pictures 33 and 34, does Jim's truck typically look like that on a regular basis?
That dirty?
Yeah.
No.
It's usually cleaner than that?
Yes.
He works for a trucking company?
Yes.
And so you're saying it never looks this dirty?
It does, but he usually washes it.
Okay. This was April of 2013, so it was, what was the weather like that day?
I don't recall.
Do you know where Jim was working at that time?
My understanding was he was working at Fort James.
I'm sorry, did you say Fort James?
Or Fort Howard, or whatever it's called.
Okay. So commonly known as Georgia Pacific now, but back then there was a Fort Howard, Fort James, right? It was an all paper company, correct?
Yes.
And he worked as he worked at Georgia Pacific through McKeefery's.
Correct.
Okay. And the driveway at your residence, that's kind of gravelish, correct?
Yes.
So it wasn't uncommon to see his truck dirty, but he'd go wash it every once in a while, correct?
Yes.
How often did he get his truck washed?
I don't know, once every 2 weeks.
Once every couple weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't recollect his truck being clean earlier that week, do you?
I never really paid that close of attention to how clean he kept it.
Okay. Now, moving forward back to April 26, 2013, you indicate that you can always hear people coming and going out of the house because the door rattles, correct?
Yes.
You heard that afternoon the door rattling. Did you not come down to see who was there?
That afternoon.
Yes. When the police got there, you didn't come down to see the police right away?
I came down when the police got there.
You don't recall your dad having to holler at you to come down and speak with the investigator, Christine Bilgo?
I recall him hollering for me, letting me know she's there.
Okay. And then you did speak with her and you showed her around your room, true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall dog searches happening that day?
Yes.
Did you speak with any of the officers with their canine units?
I don't recall if I did or not.
You were also asked about other searches that occurred. There was a couple more searches that happened that weekend, true?
Yes.
Some of them your sisters also participated in, true?
Yes.
You didn't participate in any of those searches either.
No.
You and Jim stayed at the house?
Yes.
Did you participate in any of the searches that your sisters organized?
No, it was too hard for me.
Did you recall Jim ever participating in any of those searches?
I specifically remember him attending one, that's all.
Okay. And when you say it was too hard for you, you weren't physically unable, but I think you testified that you felt that it was too mentally, emotionally taxing.
Yes. I've been battling suicide from this because of it.
Okay. Now, you just mentioned that you have struggles with your depression. Did you see those same struggles in your mother?
At times.
Okay. Did you see any of those struggles right around the time that she went missing?
No.
When was the last time you saw your mother struggling with her depression prior to her going missing?
When she found out that she had cancer.
So that would have been in, if I recall right, around July of 2012?
I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Okay. Sometime in 2012, though, correct?
Somewhere in there.
And when you testified when she had the colostomy bag, she didn't really like it, correct?
No, she hated it.
Did she seem more depressed when she had the colostomy bag?
She seemed more humiliated by it.
And let's talk a little bit about, she had the colostomy bag reversed, right? And then she just had like an ileostomy bag left.
Yes.
When she had the colostomy bag, she would use a walker or a cane, correct?
Yes.
After the reversal, though, she used the cane less and less.
Yes.
The day she went to go see the doctor on the 25th, did she take her cane with her?
No.
She walked and she went to the doctor's office without her cane.
Yes.
When she was around the house, did she use her cane that much?
From time to time she would, but not all the time.
Not all the time. And especially on the day of the April 25th, she wasn't using her cane.
I didn't see her use it, no.
Do you recall exactly what she was wearing the day of the 25th?
I don't remember what she was wearing for a shirt, but I remember she was wearing blue jeans and a blue jean denim jacket.
You remember what jacket she was wearing?
A denim jacket.
Oh, a denim jacket. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. My apologies. And do you remember what shoes she was wearing that day?
No, I don't.
When you saw her later, when she got back from the doctor's office, did she already have her shoes off?
I don't recall.
Okay. At some point in the evening, the issue of the tablecloth, did your mom say at some point, just forget about it? I don't want it anymore?
I think she said something along the lines of just forget about it.
Do you recall when you left to go to your friend's house, do you recall saying anything to your mother?
I remember telling her where I was going, that I will be back later.
Did she say anything to you?
Well, she just said, okay.
Where was Jim at that time? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
You left your room with the equipment, the computer, correct?
Yes,
You would have had to go through the living room / kitchen area to go out the door where your vehicle was, true?
yes,
The recliner that Jim likes to sit in, is that in the living room area you would have had to pass by?
it would have been, yeah, it would have been off to my left in a separate room.
Do you recall if he was laying in that chair when you left?
I don't remember if he was in that chair or not.
You know if he was, well, you don't really recall Jim being there? You don't know if he was awake or asleep at that time?
No, I don't.
But he was definitely, do you think he was in the bedroom or the living room?
I don't recall.
Did you ever recall speaking to the police about the items you was talking about your mom and her smoking, correct?
Yes,
You said, if I'm characterizing this right, your mom was a pretty heavy smoker?
yes.
Did she have multiple packs of cigarettes laying around the house?
I wouldn't say multiple packs laying around the house, no.
Would she have a pack typically in her purse?
You usually have a pack in her drawer and then a pack in her cigarette holder.
Okay. When you say her cigarette holder, was that a little case that was on the end of her purse?
Yes.
Kind of looks like a phone case, but she kept her cigarettes in it?
No, it was an actual cigarette case.
Oh, it was an actual cigarette
Yes.
case. Was that cigarette case on her purse when she went missing?
I don't know.
Did you look at her purse at all?
No, I did not.
Okay. Do you know if she would grab a few cigarettes here and there if she was just walking around the outside of the house?
No, she'd bring her whole pack with her.
Okay. So you're not certain whether or not a whole pack was missing when your mom went missing, true?
No,
Okay. Is it fair to say that your mom was a bit of a night owl?
yeah,
She didn't sleep that well because of her meds and her medical condition?
yes,
She would putz around the house all times of the night?
yes,
Is there times that she would go outside even after her cancer surgery?
yeah, but not for very long.
Okay, but she would go out and putz around at night sometimes.
Yes,
And she'd putz around in the house even when you and Jim were asleep.
yes,
Would you hear her during the night?
yes, you would hear the vacuum going.
Okay. Would she keep the TV on?
Yes,
That wouldn't disturb you while you were sleeping, or you just kind of wake up, you'd hear it, and then go back to sleep?
no, I was used to it.
Got used to it. Okay. Do you recall whether or not when you walked back into the house, when you got back around 4:30, if the TV was on?
Nothing was on.
Nothing was on. Did you notice anything in the house out of place?
No,
And you went up to your bedroom. Did you stay awake that entire time, or did you go to sleep?
I ended up falling asleep.
Do you recall when you woke up the next, after 4:30, what time you woke up on the 26th then?
Between 11 and 12.
Okay. Would you agree that when you smoked marijuana at your friend Ronsman's house, that could have changed your perception of time frames and time when things happened?
To a certain point.
And this all happened now about 8 years ago, correct? So your memory isn't exactly 100% today as it was maybe clearer back then, true?
True.
Did you ever tell police that you thought she took some cigarettes with her?
I don't recall saying that.
Do you ever tell your sisters that she might have took some cigarettes or meds with her?
I don't recall.
At the time your mom went missing, was her meds locked up somewhere?
I believe they were.
Do you know where they were locked up?
I think they were in like a little red tackle box or a toolbox thing.
Was it a lock on the toolbox, or was it just in the toolbox?
I think it was just in it. I don't think it was locked.
Okay, so it wasn't locked. Do you know where it was kept?
In their room.
In their room.
Yeah,
Okay, so she could have access to them, correct?
I think so.
When your mom was on all these different pills, did she have like a little pill box to try to keep them straight?
I don't recall.
Did she have to take pills during the day while you were there?
Yes,
So she would have to take pills while Jim was at work?
yes.
Do you know if she was taking her pills the day of April 25th, 2013?
No,
You didn't see her take pills that day?
no.
Do you know if any of her pills were missing when your mom went missing?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Lemko, do you have any redirect?
Just a couple, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Wes, this overall experience with your mom was very difficult for you. That's right?
Yes,
Having to come here and testify and get asked all these questions about what happened to your mom, is that also difficult for you?
yes,
So I'm only going to have a few more. You were just asked by the defense a question regarding the fact they've indicated it was a discussion about a tablecloth. You used the word confrontation that Jim and Vicky had that night. Would you describe it more as a confrontation that they were upset when they were discussing the tablecloth issue?
yes,
Now, with regard to that night when you were also asked some questions about the gas in your car and things, your mom didn't ask you to get the tablecloth with her. It was Jim, right?
yes,
Okay. With regard to your mom and the meds, if Jim had indicated that he was the one who controlled her meds because of a prior suicide attempt, you didn't ever control your mom's meds, right?
no,
And your mom, from what you were aware of, that it was Jim that was safekeeping those for her. Is that correct?
yes,
And when you were asked by the defense about driving her to doctor appointments, you said you never had. It was Jim that would drive her. Is that right?
yes,
Because around this time in the last year, 2 years of your mom's life, when she didn't have a car, your mom wasn't driving herself places, was she?
no,
She was relying on others to take her somewhere, correct?
yes,
And when the defense asked you if you also ever took her on errands, you indicated you rarely did that. Is that right?
yes,
Okay. Had you been present at other times when your mom would ask your dad to do something or take her somewhere where he wouldn't do that?
yes,
So the access that your mom had at that time, leaving the house, was coming from your father, Jim. Is that right?
yes,
Because she doesn't have an internet, so you never saw her communicating with anybody in that way, the way some people do with media, correct?
correct,
And with respect to not having a smartphone, she wasn't texting somebody for things like that. Is that correct?
yes,
And the red phone that you just identified that was then taken into custody by police, that was the phone that your mom was using at the time, right?
yes,
With regard to, now you were asked a lot of questions the last several years of her life. Let's talk about the last few months of her life from January to April when she goes missing after she's had health problems. Is she walking down the street in Pittsfield?
no,
Is she going down that trail near that house?
no,
At this time, was your mom in general with her health not feeling the best?
no, she was not.
Okay. So this talk that we have about her hanging out in the yard and doing all these things, was that something in the days before she went missing you were seeing her doing?
No.
Now, you were also asked some questions, and I think the verbiage that the defense said was that you had stated when you first saw Jim that he said your mom was missing. You corrected the attorney. The verbiage you used was Jim said your mom is gone. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, you were also asked some questions regarding the searches for your mom, and you admit you did not participate in those. And you're explaining to this jury it's because of your mental health, right? Not your physical disability.
Correct.
So although you did suffer from someone, you concede you could have gotten out and you could have searched,
Yes.
correct? Okay. But this was so mentally debilitating you weren't.
Correct.
But you also didn't tell anybody that they were wasting their time, did you?
No.
And you didn't use the verbiage, she isn't coming back, did you?
No.
Now, you were also asked by the defense about this being difficult, and you made the statement you've been battling suicide because of it. Is that right?
Yes.
So the loss of your mother and what you've gone through with respect to that, the person that you spoke to almost every day over getting her a cup of coffee, that's been difficult. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's your testimony here today that the last time you saw your mom, that she did not exhibit anything that would indicate to you she was having one of her bad days other than a confrontation with Jim. Is that correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Mr. D'Angelo, anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Wesley, with regards to this confrontation over this tablecloth, did your mom seem to be let that go when you were leaving the house, or did she still seem that she was arguing with Jim?
It seemed like she let it go before I left.
Okay, so she wasn't still angry or agitated when you left the house, correct?
She seemed like she was still upset, but not to the point where she was going to keep arguing about it.
And you didn't see any aggressive behavior from Jim towards your mom when you were leaving, correct?
No.
He didn't seem to have any issues about this tablecloth when you left, correct?
No.
You were asked that Jim kind of took your mom places, but if your mom asked you to drive her somewhere, you would have no problems taking her places, correct?
No. All she'd have to do is ask.
Okay. No further questions.
You may step down then. You may step down. Thank you. You would call your next witness then, please? Go
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Mike Shue.
Marv, go ahead.
Your Honor, just for the record, I know the state's going to ask, but the last witness can be excused. He's no longer.
All right, the last witness can be excused. Thank you. How's it going, Marv?
Your Honor, can we approach about a scheduling issue?
Yes. Okay, come on up, and the clerk will swear you in. Right over here.
Will the witness please remain standing and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated. And will you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last name for the court?
Michael Anthony Shu,
Can you spell both your first and last name?
Michaelschushuh.
Thank you.
Mr. Shu, how are you currently employed?
I work at McKeefer & Sons.
And what does McKeefer & Sons do?
We are an excavation company.
And how long have you worked with McKeefer's?
I believe I'm on 29 years.
And what are you currently, I guess, what is your current role with McKeefer's?
Vice President.
And have you had prior or different roles with McKeefer's in the
Yeah,
past?
I started out in a dump truck and then worked my way up.
And are you now one of the co-owners of the
Yes.
company? Okay. And were you a co-owner in 2013?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. At that point, you were
In
still
transition.
employed. Oh, sorry.
We're working towards that.
Okay. But at that point, you were employed with McKeefer's?
Yes.
What are some of your, I guess, at that time, responsibilities with McKeefer's?
I do the dispatching of the trucks, and then I also work in the field on the jobs.
And can you describe what you mean by the dispatch?
I tell them where to go and what they're going to be doing, and then run the jobs plus my own job.
Sure. So as you described it as an excavation company, does your company essentially contract with other businesses to do transportation for them?
Yes.
Was one of those companies Georgia Pacific?
Yes.
And were some of your employees assigned to the plant located on Broadway here in the city of Green Bay?
Yes.
And what sort of jobs or activities were you doing for Georgia Pacific?
We hauled their ash and their sludge or paper waste to their landfill across from Austin Straubel Airport.
And in the course of your, I guess, employment with McKeefer's, are you familiar with the materials that you were hauling from Georgia Pacific?
Yes.
And you described that as ash and sludge?
Ash is a byproduct of burnt coal that they use to create their own power. And the sludge product is paper waste from making paper.
And the ash, is that essentially like charcoal ash or?
Yes, the
Okay.
coal ash, yes.
And what does the sludge look like?
It's a slimy, fibery, it's a, I don't know, you can make a ball with it. It's moist.
And the sludge specifically is a byproduct of paper, to your
Yep, it's got
understanding?
paper fibers in it.
Okay. And the ash is essentially a byproduct of the manufacture process?
Yes,
Okay. And those were items that your company was contracted to transport from Georgia Pacific?
yes, to the landfill, their landfill,
And where is that landfill located?
across from Austin Straubel Airport.
That would be in Ashwaubenon or in that area,
Yes,
just off 172?
correct.
How many employees were there at McKeefer's around this time?
Probably somewhere around 40,
Okay.
not all there.
Okay. And were some of them assigned or given
Yeah, there was-
responsibilities at Georgia Pacific?
The Georgia Pacific contract was like its own little identity. You know, there's certain trucks that went there every day that didn't do what the stone trucks would do.
Okay. So some of your employees had essentially a standing assignment at the
Correct.
Georgia Pacific plant.
Yes, 6 days a week.
Was one of those employees James Prokopovitz?
Yes,
Did you know him by a nickname?
yes,
What was that?
Curly,
The person you know as Curly, do you see him in court today?
yes.
For the record, could you point out what he's wearing and where he's sitting for us?
The middle gentleman with the green shirt.
I'd ask the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Any opposition?
No objection, Your Honor.
The record will so reflect.
In everyday speak, would you refer to him as Curly?
Yes,
Okay. So Curly was one of those employees who was assigned to Georgia Pacific.
yes.
And what was his job responsibilities?
He was the loader operator. He loaded the trucks.
Said the loader operator.
Yes,
Are you familiar with what the loader looks like or how that works?
it's a four-wheeled loader with a bucket.
And would that be responsible for loading both the ash and the sludge you talked about earlier?
Yes,
And those would be placed into trucks that your company would then drive to the landfill?
yes,
Okay. With respect to the ability for your business to get into Georgia Pacific, are you familiar with whether there was any sort of login or key card sort of system?
you'd have to go through the guard shack
Okay.
to get in.
And would that be something that would be logged by Georgia Pacific?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. And with respect to, I guess, your company, was there a formal sort of punch card system or anything like that?
There's no punch cards. You just fill out a time sheet of paper every day, a different sheet of paper every day.
Okay. So it wasn't a formal
No, it's on
punch
your
card?
honor system.
Okay. And that would be something that the employees would later fill out and then submit?
At end of each day, yes.
Your I guess relationship with Curly, was it mostly through the business relationship?
Yes,
Would you be friendly outside of work?
well, not hang out, no, but if you see him, say hi, yes.
Okay. And was he at that point utilizing a company cell phone?
Yes.
And why would your company give some employees the cell phone?
Most of the lead people have cell phones, so I can get a hold of them or office, or they can get a hold of us if something arises.
Would they also have a company work truck?
Yes, the lead people do, yes.
And Curly was one of those people who had a phone and a truck.
Yes.
Do you remember what the number that Curly was utilizing at that time was?
No, I don't remember it.
Okay. And do you remember previously giving a statement to law enforcement in this case?
Yes,
Okay. And you gave that number that Curly was utilizing. Would reviewing your statement refresh your recollection as to the number he was using?
sure.
Mr. Shu, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 38. Direct your attention to lines 21 and 22. I'll ask that you review that by yourself, and then when you're done, flip over that piece of paper. And did that appear to be the statement that you would have provided to law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. And after reviewing that, does that help refresh your recollection?
You have the phone number? Yes.
Okay. And what number was Curly then utilizing around that time?
Can I look?
If you could refer, yes.
619-6958.
And that would be a cell phone that was provided to him by the company.
Yes.
The, I guess on a daily basis in the course of Curly's job responsibilities, would he sometimes call you and other employees?
We would speak pretty much every morning to see if he would need more trucks or how he's doing or what it looks like down there.
Okay. So he would essentially call you to tell you on a daily basis how many trucks were needed to haul the ash or the sludge?
Yes, there was always a standard amount of trucks, but if something happened where he would need more or less.
Okay. So you would, to your recollection, have contact with Curly on a daily or almost daily basis?
Almost daily, whenever, yeah.
Okay. And you said it was a 6-day-a-week work week?
Most of the time, yes.
Would that be Monday through Saturday?
Yes, but if there was a holiday, it would jockey around, but yes.
Sure. Okay. So for instance, if Curly's phone records showed that there was a call on April 26th at about 6:15 a.m., that would be consistent with a call that you would have had regarding how many trucks to bring that day?
Yes,
Okay. And that would be a call that you would have almost daily?
yes.
Okay. Directing your attention then to, I guess, April 25th and 26th of 2013, I guess you're familiar with why you're testifying today, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with whether around that time Mr. Prokopovitz took any days off of work?
No,
You are familiar and he didn't, or you're not familiar?
no, we did not.
He did not take any. Okay. You mentioned the timesheets that your company collects with respect to when an employee is working. Is that something that your business maintains? You collect those?
Yes,
And then in this case, did you provide law enforcement with about a week's worth of time cards for Mr. Prokopovitz? Mr. Shue, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 45 and ask if you recognize that.
there are timesheets.
Okay. And does that appear to be consistent with the timesheets that your company used?
Yes,
Okay. And the name on the timesheet, are you able to make out what that says?
yes,
And what does that say?
Curly.
Okay. And Exhibit 45, does that appear to be a 7-page document?
Yes,
And the first page is dated April 22nd of 2013.
yes,
I'd move Exhibit 45, Your Honor.
Any opposition, Mr. DeAngelo?
No, Your Honor.
Then I will receive exhibit number 45.
Mr. Shue, I'll direct your attention to page 4 of that document, if you could flip to that. And this is a timesheet that appears to be dated April 25th, 2013.
yes,
Does the form indicate the hours that Curly would have worked on that day?
5:30 to 2.
Do you believe that to be 5:30 a.m. to 2 p.m.?
Yes,
Would that be a normal, I guess, time frame that Curly would be working?
yes,
Okay. It's not an overnight shift.
no,
Okay.
no,
And then directing your attention to page 5 of that exhibit, what is that timesheet dated?
04/26 of 13.
And does it indicate the hours that Curly would have worked on that date?
5:30 to 1:30?
And again, you believe that to be 5:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.,
Yes,
based on your understanding of when Curly would typically work?
yes.
Okay. Then the next page, Mr. Shu, that's Exhibit 6. What date is that timesheet dated?
04/27 of 13.
And the hours that he would have worked on that date?
5:30 to 1.
And then looking at the last page of the document, what date is that form dated?
04/29 of 13.
And the hours he worked on that date?
5:30 to 1:30.
So there isn't a timesheet for 04/28 of 13. If you were to find out that's a Sunday, would that be consistent with Curly's typical work schedule?
Yes,
But otherwise, every other date that we talked about, he was working on those dates.
correct.
And again, there isn't a formal prior jobs where you punch cards. It's more of an honor system, but this would have been consistent with what you remember too in terms of Curly not taking any days off.
Yes,
Okay. If you had, and if phone records would have shown that you had contact with Curly several dates during this time frame, would you, during those conversations, have talked to Mr. Prokopovitz at all about the fact that his wife was missing?
no.
When did you find out about that?
I believe it was the Sunday.
What were the circumstances in terms of how you came to know that?
Curly rented our farmhouse, or my dad's farmhouse where we grew up. And my dad was retired. We still had cattle and chickens and stuff there. And I would stop in and see him or help him out. And when I pulled in there, that's when the police and all that were there. And my dad actually told me that Vicky was missing.
So to go back just a little bit, are you referring to the 518 Coonish Road residence?
Yes,
Is that a residence that your family actually owned?
yes,
And Curly was renting it from your family or your
My dad.
father? Okay. And are you familiar with that property?
yes, I grew up there.
Okay. So you're familiar with how it appeared in April of 2013? I'm showing you what's previously been marked Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes,
And what does that photograph depict?
what?
What does that photograph depict?
Still didn't hear you.
Sorry, speaking to the microphone. What does that photograph depict?
Picture of the farmhouse and the barn and silo.
And that's the residence that you actually grew up in?
Yes,
Okay. Are there some outbuildings that are located on that property?
yes.
Are those buildings that Curly would typically have access to?
Yes,
Okay. Were there some buildings, though, that were locked?
we gave them access to one garage, I believe, on one of them, and then the barn wasn't locked, but the back shed was locked up. Yes,
So some of the outbuildings in
Yes.
the property were locked.
yes,
And you said on the 28th you went to that Coonish Road address, is that right?
yes,
And was one of those reasons you went there was to assist law enforcement in opening those buildings?
yes. Well, I'd stopped to see my dad too.
Okay. And it's at that point that that you learned that Curly's wife was missing?
Yes,
And this was April 28th?
yes, I believe.
Or that Sunday?
Yes,
Okay. And prior to that, had you spoken with Curly?
no,
You wouldn't have spoken to him on the phone in the course of, hey, Curly's calling you for more trucks?
oh, in the morning of work days,
Yeah.
yes,
Those were short conversations,
Yes.
but in those conversations, you did not hear anything about Curly's wife being missing?
No.
And the first time you heard was April 28th, 2013?
Yes.
Did that surprise you?
Yes.
In addition to the, I guess, the contract that your company has with Georgia Pacific, are there other sites that your company, McKeefre's, operates?
Yes, we also have our own quarries and sand pits.
And what are those quarries?
Stone quarries where you mine and crush gravel. Sand pits, regular bank sand, and then we have a wash plant up in Chase.
Where are the quarries located?
There is one that's finished, so it's filled with water on Quarry Drive. And then there's one on Highway 29 on the west side, and then there's one on Highway 29 on the east side.
So there's 3 quarries?
Yes,
One of which is, you said, finished or filled with water.
yes.
Do you remember about how deep that is?
I believe it's somewhere around 90 feet in the deepest spot.
Would those locations, you mentioned the quarries and the sand pit area, would those be areas that employees of McKeefre's would be aware of?
Yes,
Would they have access to them?
yes.
I think we talked about the locations of the quarries. Where's the sand pits?
Off of Northwoods in Swamico or Flintville.
Are those areas that are that your company has surveillance video at?
No,
Did they in April of 2013?
excuse me.
Sorry, did they in April of 2013 either?
No,
They've never had surveillance video there?
we do now on a couple of them, yes.
Oh, okay.
But
not,
just within the last 6 months.
so not in April of 2013? Subsequently, in 2017, was there a time when Curly moved out of the 518 Coonish Road residence?
Yes,
And did you notify law enforcement of that?
yes,
Subsequent to Curly moving out of that residence, did you have a chance to go through that residence?
after,
Yes.
yes.
And I guess what did you observe?
There's a lot of stuff left behind.
Did that include photographs on the walls?
I don't know if there was or not.
Okay. You don't recall, but you recall
No.
there was quite a number
A lot
of
of
items.
stuff, yeah.
Sorry,
My
there were quite
brothers
a few
and-
items.
My brothers and sisters cleaned it up pretty much before I got there because I was working.
Okay. But you do recall there were a fair amount of items left behind.
Yes, we burnt a lot.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. DeAngelo, do you have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Shue, you had a working relationship with Mr. Prokopovitch, but you didn't have a personal relationship with him, true?
True.
And even when you went out to the Kunish Road residence to help your dad with the animals, you didn't really interact with Jim at that time, correct?
Well, if I'd see him, we'd say hi and talk about work a little bit. That's about it.
So the conversations that you would have in the morning were strictly work-based, nothing personal that was ever discussed over the phone, correct?
Correct.
And you were not aware that Mr. Prokopovitz's wife had mental health issues, did you?
Say that again.
Sure. Did you know that Victoria Prokopovitz suffered from mental health issues?
I heard stories, but
You heard stories, but never from Jim, correct?
no,
Okay. You never heard him talk about her attempted suicides in the past either, did you?
I heard about them, but I don't think it was from Jim, no.
Okay, so Jim never really discussed his home life with you directly.
No,
Okay, so it wouldn't be uncommon that he didn't discuss his wife missing with you because he never really talked about his home life with you to begin with.
correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you get any indication from Jim that he acted differently before she went missing or after she went missing?
No,
He was basically the same hard worker that he always was.
yes,
You were asked about these quarries. Now, Jim was not going to the quarries at the time in April of 2013, correct?
correct.
He was only going to the Georgia Pacific where you'd have to get through a locked gate to get in and out, true?
True.
And with regards to his cell phone and work truck, that was provided by McKeefrey's, correct?
Correct.
Would the McKeefrey guys come to the main shop to wash their trucks?
Yes, they can anytime they want.
Okay. Do you ever recall Jim doing it?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. Do you recall giving access to the Brown County Sheriff's Department and officers to do searches of those quarries?
Yes,
Did they ever tell you they found anything of evidential value?
never told me anything, no,
Okay. As far as you know, they didn't find anything at the quarries?
as far as I know.
As well as the sand pit?
Correct.
Okay. They didn't find anything there either.
Correct.
Okay. Did Jim ever miss much work at all the time that he was employed through McKeefrey's?
No,
He didn't miss even if he was sick or anything?
no,
He just went to work every day like usual?
yes,
Okay. Now, it was mentioned that he moved out of the Kunish Road residence. Do you recall when he moved out, like what year?
no, I don't. It was right after my dad died. We actually asked him to move out.
Right after your dad died? When do you know what year your dad passed away?
3 years, I think, something like that,
3 years ago?
I believe, not positive.
Okay. And do you know who else was living in the house besides Jim when they moved out?
No,
So you don't know if Jim moved out and Wesley Edges and his girlfriend were living there at that time?
no, I do not.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor,
All right.
you were asked about Curly wouldn't go out to the quarry area. You remember that?
Yep.
Okay. And that was during work hours, right?
Yes,
His work responsibilities was to go to the Georgia Pacific plant,
yes,
load trucks that were brought to the 172 site.
yes,
Okay. And that was the sludge and the ash.
correct.
Does your family still own the 518 Kunish Road residence?
No,
That was sold?
yes,
Okay. And you testified on cross that Curly still came to work as usual, is that right?
yes,
And you had some knowledge of his wife based on things in the
Yes.
community, right?
yep.
All right. Then to your knowledge, had Vicky's wife, or Curly's wife, disappeared in the past?
Has she disappeared in the past?
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So this would have been an unusual situation.
Yes,
Is it surprising that Curly didn't talk about the fact that his wife was missing?
Would seem to be yes.
So with respect to that, then Sunday, when you first found out about it, do you remember what your reaction was?
Surprised
You remember what you said
to,
to Curly, to his daughter?
oh, I remember, when they're there and I remember saying, you didn't have to come to work, but
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. D'Angelo, anything else?
Just briefly, Mr. Shu, you were just asked about Curly not going to the quarries during work hours. You never known Curly to go to the quarries after work hours, did you?
not that I know of.
You would have to have, I'm assuming you don't just have these quarries open to anybody that can walk in. You have to have some sort of access key or something?
No, the one on Quarry Drive is open. The sand pit is locked, but he would have keys. Or there's a McKeefery key that's hanging in the shop.
There's a key in the shop. Do you ever known those keys to be missing?
No, they're not missing.
Okay. And with regards to, you were asked about it was unusual that he didn't say that his wife was missing, but it wasn't unusual that Jim really didn't talk to you about anything about his wife, correct?
No, it wasn't unusual.
Okay. So you finding out, well, you mentioned that you only heard rumors about her mental health, you only heard rumors about her suicides. You would have, had you not shown up that Sunday, maybe you had only heard rumors that she went missing, correct?
I would have found out sooner or later, yeah.
At some point, but
Yes.
not necessarily would have came from Jim.
Correct.
No further questions.
You may step down then. Thank you very much. You're free to go. If you would call your next witness then, please.
At this time, the state would call Marsha Loritz to the stand.
Thank you. Mr. D'Angelo, why don't you put me on mute if you would, thank you. Pardon?
They need the,
Oh, I see. Is Marvin, where's Marvin? Oh, okay. It's almost time for lunch, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, but we're going to start another witness before we take the lunch break. So thank you very much. Thanks, Marvin. Okay.
Will you please remain standing and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. And will you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last name for the court?
Marsha Loritz, Marsha
Thank you.
Good morning, Marsha.
Morning.
Marsha, what's your date of birth?
10/6/72,
Okay. And how old are you?
49.
Are you married?
Yes.
Who are you married to?
Andy Loritz,
And how long have you and Andy been married?
since 1992.
Okay. So you got married in 1992?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have children?
Yes, 2 boys,
And how old are they?
22 and 25.
Okay. And who is your mother, Marsha?
Victoria Prokopovitz,
And who is your biological father?
Daryl Edges.
Has Mr. Edges, he has passed away?
Yes.
And that was back in 1995?
Yes.
Okay. So that was a couple years after you got married?
Yes.
Now, do you also have a stepfather?
Yes.
Who is that?
James Prokopovitz.
Do you see him seated here in the courtroom today?
Yes, he's over there.
Okay. Can you state what he's wearing?
Green shirt.
Okay. In the middle of the 2 people at counsel table?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, James Prokopovitz.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
The record will so reflect. Thank you.
Now, Marsha, you referred to your mother, Victoria. Have you seen your mother since April 25th, 26th of 2013?
No.
Have you heard from your mother since then?
No.
Have you heard of anybody else who has seen your mom?
No.
Have you talked to anybody else who's talked to her?
No.
With respect to her missing, and now we're talking about back in 2013, has there ever been any credible information that hasn't been explored regarding the fact that your mother is still living?
Everything's been explored.
Okay. And you yourself, have you been in contact with law enforcement, specifically Sergeant Roman Ehrenstein and Special Agent Jay Yergis, in an investigation into what began as your mother being missing and what's turned into a presumed death investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And you also, with respect to this experience that's occurred, have you also attempted to get information out nationally regarding the fact that your mother's been missing?
Yes.
All right. So as we walk through some of the efforts that have been made with regard to your mother, you yourself have participated in searches that have occurred with your mother?
Several.
What are some of the other kinds of searches you're aware of that have been executed in relation to finding your mother?
We contacted some search and rescue teams after law enforcement did their searches, and they performed some searches of the area. They did several of them. I know that the quarry was searched.
When you talk about some of the searches law enforcement did that include canines or dogs?
Yeah, the very first few days.
Did it include horseback?
The other ones that we brought the teams in, yes.
Okay.
Dogs, sonar, horseback.
Okay. You're aware of law enforcement doing an aerial search by plane?
Yes.
You also had heard that they had done a drone search in recent years?
I did not know about that.
Okay. But you have been updated with respect to the fact that as a result of all of these various searches that your mother has not been recovered?
Yes.
With regard to you yourself and your siblings, who are your siblings?
Stacey Deer and Wesley Edges. And then I have a stepsister, Lisa Masti, and a stepbrother, Wally Prokopovitz.
Okay. With regard to the searches that have been done, you yourself, you have participated in some of those searches?
Yes,
Have you been present at nearly all of them?
yes,
With regard to the attention that you have attempted to garner with respect to your mother being missing, I had also referred that you had attempted to make contact through national media as well.
yes,
And have you utilized social media and websites to do that?
yes,
Have you also just gotten out the word through flyers?
yes.
Okay. I'm showing you it's been marked Exhibit 31. Do you recognize this?
Yes,
So what is this?
it's my mom's missing persons poster.
Okay. And with respect to this missing person, is this something that you helped produce?
That one is produced by law enforcement, but yes, we had helped with it.
Okay. Did you assist in raising a monetary reward?
Yes,
And was that also utilized as an inducement to try to see if anybody in the public had information?
yes,
And when you're referring to this, this is one that law enforcement did. Were there other ones that you did?
yes, several.
Marsha, with respect to attempting to locate your mother, did you actually attempt to pass these out at various businesses in an attempt to locate her?
Yes, area businesses, in the public, on trees, in parks, everywhere we could, and even the fairs. When the fairs came, we went to the Seymour Fair, the Kewaunee County Fair, and Pulaski Polka Days.
Okay. And besides from the time she went missing in April of 2013, is this something that you were attempting to do annual through the years?
Yes,
Okay. With respect to getting out all of that information, did you also assist in organizing some various benefits and public events to also try to get the word out?
yeah, missing persons awareness events, where we brought awareness to all missing persons in Wisconsin, not just my mom. We've been doing them since 2015.
When you're talking about that, at some point, did you actually reach out to Governor Scott Walker about this?
Yes, I wrote to him asking for a Missing Persons Awareness Day because they have a Missing Children's Day, but not a day for adults. And when I entered my mom in NamUs, I entered in Wisconsin and 99 other names popped up. And I knew that I did not know that there were 99 other people missing from Wisconsin. So I wrote to him asking for Missing Persons Awareness Day. And he came back granting a proclamation for Missing Persons Awareness Month. And that has been granted by the state every year since 2015.
And you actually, with this cause for your mother, you're the person that assisted in having that proclaimed in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're talking about this type of advocacy that you are reaching out for your mother, with the experience you have had with this situation, did you also believe that it was important to assist others who are going through this?
Yes.
Okay. And this experience with respect to it, has this been devastating for you in your life?
It has been terrible. I stopped living for a long time, and every day did something to get the word out about my mom missing for years.
When somebody like that is missing in your life, is one of the issues the fact that you're still just always looking?
Always looking.
Okay.
When I drive down the road, I'm looking in the ditch, even if it's someplace that I know that I can't possibly be.
You're always looking for Vicky.
Always looking.
Now, with regard to the relationship that you had with your mother, what was the birth order of you and your siblings?
I'm the oldest, Stacey's in the middle, and Wes is the youngest.
Okay, of your biological siblings?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Wally is the oldest, and Lisa, and then would be me.
Okay. Because as was indicated earlier, at some point, your mother, well, you referred to your stepfather, at some point, your mother, Vicky Prokopovitz, did marry Jim back in 1989?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, previous to your mother marrying Jim, your biological father, he was Daryl Edges?
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to break. It's almost noon. And so we'll see everybody back here at 1 o'clock. And I do have to read an admonition to you, the same one as I've read before. And that is, jurors, I now caution you not to discuss this case with anyone, not even among yourselves, until this case is submitted to you for your final deliberations in a jury room. And you are then to discuss it only among yourselves in the jury room. So we'll see everybody back here at 1 p.m. If you would go with Bailiff Tom, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Let's stand for the jury. Okay, we'll see everybody at 1 o'clock then. Thank you.
Marsha, you want to come around here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to stay by the door?
So either locked or somebody will stay by the door.